My name is Noel, and this is my studio. All right, we got a lot to cover today, so I'm going to be talking faster than normal. Let's get going. First, let's start with the double doors right here as you enter into my studio. These are really great, especially whenever you're carrying big items. My studio measures 10 feet wide, 12.5 feet long, and 9 feet high. The DAW that I use in my studio is Bitwig Studio, and the reasons why I use Bitwig are because it's very similar to Ableton, but I just like the way it looks a lot better, and I like the fact that whenever I plug something into it, like an interface, audio interface or MIDI interface, it sees it right away and you can map it very easily, and it doesn't crash. I'm not saying that other DAWs do, it's just my experience with Bitwig is that it crashes less than the other DAWs that I've tried. One of the best features of Bitwig is that you have the ability inside to what they call the polygrid to make synthesizers from scratch in a modular style. And those synthesizers can be really simple, just one oscillator, or you can have 50 or even 100 oscillators. You can make them as complex as you want. Controlling my DAW, I have the Native Instruments Control S61N. That's a fairly recent addition to my studio. The main reasons why I like this, and I use it to control all the other instruments that are connected through MIDI to the computer, but the main reasons why I like using it are because it has really good DAW integration, and it has lights because I'm not a formally trained piano player. So this allows me to light up the scales where there's a light that shines only above the scales and keys that I want to play in for that song, and that's really opened up new doors for me in terms of composition. The monitors that you see to my left and to my right are KRK Rocket 7s, and that is a strong indicator that I am just an amateur, okay? This is a hobby studio, it's not professional. If it was professional, I would have better quality monitors. Also, I wouldn't be using this room. I'd be using a room that's significantly larger than this, and I would have the desk back a certain distance and the monitors back from the wall, placed specifically so that you're in the best location to be able to mix and master. Okay, we're going to start to make our way around the studio clockwise. And one thing I want to also mention is the sound treatment on the walls. It was not expensive. It is not what I would consider professional grade. It's 2-inch and it contains rock wool. Paid about $80 each for those panels, but they do make a really significant difference in dampening the echoes and reflections in here. Again, if this is a professional studio, I would have bass traps and a lot more sound treatment than what you see here. All right, moving along here. Over on the far side of my rack, you can see that I have a Model 12 made by Tascam that serves as my primary audio interface and my primary MIDI interface. Running MIDI out of that, I connect to all of these items here, except for the item on the top. It doesn't have any MIDI control. That is a compressor expander limiter that I use on occasion, and I have it mounted here because of an upcoming video that I want to do on recording completely DAWless with no computer. Underneath that, I have the MIDI patcher, which helps me route MIDI to and from anything that I have on this rack or things that I have near this rack. Moving down, we have the awesome ASM Hydrosynth that I really love. With this, you can make really warm sounds despite what you may have heard. It's not all cold sounds, even though it is digital. But you can make warm sounds and harsh digital sounds and pretty much anything between. I love it. My favorite synthesizer on this rack, actually we've skipped over, and that is the Roland Super JD JD990 from the early 1990s. And this synthesizer is so incredible that I'm probably going to do a video that just talks about that. So I won't go too deep into that right now. But going down, we have the Dave Smith's Instruments Poly Evolver. And this is a hybrid with analog and digital oscillators, and it's just incredible, incredible, all the different things that you can do with this. I'd encourage you to watch other videos about it. Maybe I'll do a video about that someday as well. Here we have the Sequential Pro 3, also designed by Dave Smith and friends. This is an awesome mono synth. I wanted one really comprehensive mono synth. This has a lot of the same types of features that you would find kind of similar to the Poly Evolver, but it's a mono synth that can also do paraphonic, 2 notes at a time. Below that we have the incredible Roland JP8000. I've mentioned this in a couple of my other videos. This is one of my favorite synthesizers from the mid/late 1990s, and the panel layout on that is just really inspiring, and you can just start fiddling with things and make sounds really quickly. And not just the famous super saw that it was first famous for, but just a lot of other things. So it's not limited to just trance. It really is a Jupiter. And in this corner we have the Roland TD17 V drums. I have added an extra cymbal, actually 2 extra cymbals that it didn't come with, and a double kick pedal. I like the V drums because you can do things that you can't do on a drum machine, like I can't get that kind of expressiveness exactly out of a drum machine, so that's why I have these. I'm not a great drummer. Behind the drums, I've got this loose sound panel here that I can move around if I want to, but also I have behind this mysterious door another closet where I keep a few things. I'm not going to go into that closet right now, but I'll tell you the main things that are inside it are the Novation Ultranova and Korg Micro Korg. I don't use those very often, and that's why they're in the closet. Okay, I'm crouching down a little bit here so that we can cover everything that's on the shelf on the back wall of my studio. At the top here we have the Korg Minilogue XD. Below that we have the Korg Wave State, and next to the Wave State I have a I always have a hard time pronouncing it. The Synthstrum Deluge, which is a really advanced, awesome sequencer groove box. Down below that you can see that I have an MPC Live 2. It does have the Pro Pack installed. Below that I have the Korg Electribe EMX, which I talk about a lot. Next to the Korg Electribe I have a Korg R3. I don't feel like uncovering it right now because I've got some cords on top of it, but maybe I'll show you that later. Underneath at the bottom I've got a couple of miscellaneous microphones. These are not expensive microphones. If they were, I would normally keep those in their cases when they're not in use, because the humidity can get to it, and dust and other things. I have a couple of portable guitar amplifiers under there. One of them is a battery-powered Fender, which is actually kind of hard to find. Little Mustang amp that you can run on batteries. Sometimes I just want to do a little jam somewhere, so I'll take one of those. I also have, very important, are these boxes, and one thing that's extremely important, hopefully the camera will focus on it okay. I'm hiding my face out of the camera so you can see, but these Velcro ties are extremely helpful in keeping your gear cords organized and connecting different things together. Inside these boxes I keep all different types of cords. I have other ones. Every single type of USB style connector that you can have, I pretty much own, because you don't want to be in a situation where the only thing that's keeping you from creating is you can't find the right chord. So go through, do an inventory. I recommend you do that about once a year at least. Go through everything that you own that's related to your musical gear, know where it is, know what it is, and if you got power supplies like I do, I'm going to show you that here in this other little box. In here I keep a lot of the commonly used power supplies, and most of the power supplies are marked. If I don't keep them here, I keep them next to the item that they power. Okay, so like for example, right here, I have the power cable for the Korg R3, and it has a label on the end. You don't want to misplace your power supplies. Your whole creative flow can come to a grinding halt if you pull out an instrument and you can't find the power supply for it. Coming back over here for just a second, I forgot to mention that I have different headphones, and along with that organization I talked about, I always keep cables in the same places generally, so I know exactly where to find them. But yeah, different types of headphones because you want to be able to monitor your mixes in using different monitoring methods. You know, listen on your phone, listen on different headphones, listen on a portable Bluetooth speaker if you have one, and listen in your car if you want to make sure that your mix really sounds balanced in most environments. Another thing that I want to mention is these speakers. I have them mounted here so that I can get a stereo image whether I'm sitting in front of these keyboards or I'm sitting in front of the desk that I showed you earlier. I always want to have a stereo image. Now I know you can get that stereo image from the headphones, but a lot of times I don't want to use headphones. I want to use speakers because it prevents my ears from getting tired as quickly. Moving along now to my side table. Usually if there's an instrument that I want to concentrate on, in this case it's the Solar 42 that I just got a couple of weeks ago. I put it on the side table here so that I can focus on that instrument and learning it and still have my desk available. Right next to my side table I also have this other closet right here, and some of you may have been wondering, well, if I've got the Solar 42 or other instruments over here, how do I connect them to my DAW if I want to record them? And the answer is right here. The Scarlett 1820 is another audio interface, and I can connect it at the exact same time to Bitwig, and Bitwig sees it. The computer I didn't mention before is a Mac Mini M2, and I've found that Macs, for me, sometimes allow for easier connections when you have devices, interfaces of different brands that you're using together at the same time. I know that Windows is getting a lot better, and I do use Windows, so I don't want you to think that I'm you know, a Mac guy. I'm not. It's just what I'm using right now, and it's working very well. So anyway, I can have 8 different inputs coming into this, and then I can have up to 10 different inputs coming into the Model 12 at the same time on the other end of the room. So that's plenty of connections for all the things that I do in my studio. Akai Force down on the shelf below that. I've got some guitar effects underneath that, or multi-effects that I use with different things. And just because they're guitar effects doesn't mean I only use them with guitars. I like to use them with other instruments, especially what you see up here, which is the Behringer 2600. And you can see that I've got a Arturia Key 37 below that, which I use. And then hiding in the back corner there, it's going to be a little hard to see. There we go. We have a Behringer K2 semi-modular, and then we have the Roland JD08, Behringer TD3. Up at the top I just have miscellaneous accessories, another audio interface for whenever I'm away from home. I've got adapters in one of those boxes, like every single adapter that you could buy back when Radio Shack was open. I bought it because you always want to have the right adapter available whenever you're doing creative things and connecting things together with wires. I've got a sequencer back there, which is a QY 200, I believe, from Yamaha. I've got guitar strings and guitar tuners in there, and I've got all kinds of different memory cards, including memory cards that you don't really find very often, like smart media cards that I need in some devices. Also hiding down here that I'm not going to pull out right now is a Yamaha AN200 and a Novation bass station. Inside these drawers, I keep fairly well organized the different microphones that I have and all types of different cables and connectors that I don't already have out in my studio. Moving back underneath my desk. Here you can see patch cables that I need for my semi-modular gear. Underneath my main desk, I also have a battery backup. That is really important. If the power goes out, you don't want to lose your project. Okay, this gives you about 20 minutes of time to save your project and shut everything down properly so you don't lose your work. Also on my desk are some light controls so that I can change the color of my ambient lighting if I want to. There is a 2 terabyte backup drive, and underneath my Mac Mini I also have a 2 terabyte external drive. You always want to keep things backed up. I also back up to the cloud. You may have noticed that I've got my keyboards pulled a little bit away from the wall, just enough space so that I can get back in here whenever I need to connect and disconnect various wires and cables. This section of my studio is for guitar, and it's something that I set up fairly recently. I used to have guitars and things in other rooms, but I wanted to have a central location where I can sit with other people and jam. So this time we're going to go counterclockwise, starting with the Fender Jaguar made in Japan. I have that set up so that it connects to guitar synthesizers like the VG99, which is a really awesome guitar synthesizer. Underneath that we keep our chords somewhat organized, make sure that there's one handy at all times. Moving along, I've got a drum machine. I always have a drum machine handy, and the cords and power supply nearby to hook those up. A couple of speakers, and because this is a fairly new setup, that's why you don't see everything hooked up right now. Moving along, if I wanted to do a quick recording, in the moment, I've got my Tascam DP24. This gives me a non-DAW, non-computer workflow if I want to, which provides a different form of creativity than you might get from using your DAW, so I really like that. Underneath that, we've got the GR55 guitar synthesizer. You can make your guitar sound like pianos, flutes, horns, and you can also use your guitar with this or the VG99 to control other synthesizers, and you can also record the notes of the guitar via MIDI into your DAW. On the floor, we have the foot controller that was specifically made for the VG99, but you can also use it as a MIDI controller for other things. All right, these are not all the guitars that I own. I don't want to go into every single one today, but these are the main ones that I've been using here lately. I've got a Schecter 8-string guitar. I'm really getting into using these 7- and 8-string guitars because the expanded tonal range, and you can really get deep. One of the types of music I like to play, believe it or not, is really super heavy metal and things that are kind of along the lines of Metallica and Slayer, and these kinds of guitars are super heavy for that kind of work. 6-string baritone Ibanez guitar. This is tuned just like a normal guitar, except it's 1 octave lower. Next to that, I've got a fairly ordinary Yamaha 4-string bass, and next to that I have this beautiful Ibanez 5-string fretless bass. Behind those, I had this Hohner 5-string bass that my big brother gave to me about 12 years ago, and it really has that 80s vibe, and I really like it a lot. I can imagine Geddy Lee with a Steinberger that looks similar to this back in the 80s. And then I have the Ibanez S350, and I've installed Seymour Duncan active pickups in it, and it is heavy. It's got a lot of crunch, but it can also sound pretty when you want it to, and because it's slim, it's fairly lightweight, and I really like that. And then the main amplifier that I use is the EVH 5150. I don't really use amplifiers all the time now, but whenever I do, I want crunch. And then next to that we have the Fender Rumble 800, which, as you might guess, can produce up to 800 watts. It's super light. That's what I like about it. It's amazing how light it is for the amount of power you can get out of it. It's, I guess, kind of a wonder of technology. And like I said about this power supply, is keeping that power cord nearby, so I'm ready to plug it in at any time. All right, so that pretty much concludes my quick studio tour. If you saw an instrument in my video and you'd like to know more about it, feel free to ask questions, or if you saw anything else in this video and I didn't really explain it very well for you because I wanted to go through this fast to cover as many things as possible without making this video, 2 hours long. So feel free to put that in the comments. If you like what you saw here today, feel free to check out my other videos and consider liking and subscribing. And yeah, so some other types of equipment that I have that I didn't mention earlier that I didn't show you today. I've got a Roland D50, I've got a Korg Chrome, and those I don't really use a whole lot. Particularly the D50 I like to kind of keep outside of the studio because that's more of something that I have as a collector's item more than something that I use every day in the studio. I also have a Roland MV30 sequencer sound module that has a sound module that is built on the same architecture as a Roland D70, but it is an awesome sequencer that almost nobody knows about, that was made I think around 1991, and 8 tracks and panning and fader control, automation, everything being saved to a 3x5 or a 3.5 inch floppy disk. So the MV30 is awesome. And then I've got various multi-track recorders that I use when I don't want to work in a computer. From time to time, I like to kind of relive the days of the past and remember what it was like before the days of computer DAWs, and it gives me a certain kind of focus that I just can't get from a DAW. But then it also reminds me how good it is to have a DAW because all the different things you can do just completely blows away all that old technology. I do also use the Model 12 as a standalone recorder, and I've got a video about that too. So anyway, yeah, I hope you enjoyed this quick tour of my studio, and thank you for watching, and I hope you have a great day.